All right, let's talk about procrastination. We all do it, right? We tell ourselves, I'm so lazy, or I'll just get to it tomorrow. But what if I told you that's completely the wrong way to think about it? In this explainer, we're going to dig into some source material that offers a really powerful and kind of surprising way to understand why we put things off, and most importantly, how to actually stop.
So, here's the big question, the one that can kind of change everything. What if procrastination isn't some deep character flaw? What if it's not about laziness at all, but it's really just fear in a clever disguise? Think about that. A signal that we're terrified of some outcome, maybe failure, maybe even success. Just asking that one question can totally reframe the problem.
And that leads us to the absolute core idea here. Procrastination isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's a protection mechanism. Seriously, your brain is literally trying to shield you from what it thinks is coming pain. You know, the pain of failing, or being judged, or even just the stress of a super tough task. So let's get this straight. It's not about being lazy. It's about your brain trying to avoid pain it expects to feel.
Okay, so if procrastination is really just fear, what's the first step? Well, it's simple. We have to figure out what we're actually afraid of. We've got to unmask that fear and look it right in the face.
And here's the thing, you have to be specific. It's not enough to just say, oh, I'm scared. No, you have to give that fear a name, a label. What exactly are you afraid of? Are you worried you're going to look stupid? Are you scared you'll totally bomb? Or maybe you're scared you'll succeed, and then the pressure will be on. The moment you give that fear a specific name, that's the moment you start to take its power away.
So once you've named the fear, how do you break its hold? With immediate action. And that's where this beautiful little trick, the 2-minute rule, comes in. Forget the whole giant project. Just ask yourself, what is the absolute tiniest possible step I can take in the next 2 minutes? Seriously, is it sending one email, Googling one thing? Just doing that one tiny thing flips a switch. It defaults you to action and pulls you right out of that dreaded analysis paralysis.
And here's a crazy psychological truth for you. The anticipation of failure is almost always more painful than the action itself. You know that feeling, the weeks you spend dreading a tough conversation? That's usually way worse than the 10 minutes the conversation actually takes. Our minds are experts at blowing up the fear of doing something, when the real suffering, the real pain is in the waiting, the not doing.
All right, this next principle, it's a total game changer. It flips one of the biggest myths we've been told about productivity completely on its head. We all think we need to feel motivated before we can take action, right? Well, guess what? We've had it backwards this whole time.
Think about it. We spend so much of our lives just waiting for inspiration to strike. But that's a losing game. Here's the truth. Action is not the result of motivation. Action is the cause of motivation. It's the spark that lights the fire. The second you start moving, even in the tiniest way, you create momentum. And that momentum is what creates the feeling of motivation you were waiting around for.
You know, the source material even shares this incredible story about being in prison and discovering that the fastest way to get out of a negative headspace wasn't to think your way out. It was to move your way out. To do push-ups, to do squats, anything. You can't just think your way into a better mood. You have to act your way into one. Physical motion changes your emotional state. It's the ultimate antidote to overthinking.
So, okay, how do you actually do this? Here's the playbook. First, stop waiting for the perfect headspace. You have to create it with action. Second, stack up a bunch of tiny, micro wins to get the ball rolling. And you gotta celebrate every single one. Like literally say, winning streak, out loud. It sounds silly, but it works. And finally, a really cool trick, set deadlines that are 20 to 30% shorter than you think you need. It forces focus.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most powerful principle. We tend to think of inaction as, well, neutral, right? Just kicking the can down the road. But the truth is, inaction isn't neutral at all. It has a hidden cost, and believe me, it is massive. Just listen to this quote. Procrastination compounds regret. Man, that's heavy, right? But it's so true. Procrastination isn't a one-time thing. It's a downward spiral. Each time you put something off, you're not just delaying, you're adding more weight to it, more negative self-talk, more anxiety. It's like bad debt for your soul. It just keeps compounding.
So how do you make that cost feel real, right now? You have to give it a price tag. Let's just say for a second that every single hour you procrastinate costs you $1,000. Cold, hard cash, gone. Would you still be scrolling right now? Or would you get to work? Suddenly the pain of doing nothing feels a lot more tangible, doesn't it?
And this whole idea taps into a basic piece of human psychology. We are far more motivated to avoid pain than we are to seek pleasure. It's just how we're wired. So as long as you see inaction as a no-cost option, you'll keep choosing it. But the moment you frame it as a massive loss, a loss of money, a loss of opportunity, a loss of self-respect, your brain will do everything in its power to avoid that pain.
Okay, so here are the practical systems to put this all into play. First, stop looking at the whole mountain. Break that giant project down into tiny 48-hour sprints. Second, use a timer. The Pomodoro method is perfect for this. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. It forces you to just focus on the next block of time. And finally, at the end of every day, write down the open loops, the things you need to start with tomorrow. It gets them out of your head so you can actually rest and hit the ground running the next day.
All right, we've gone through the principles, the what and the why. But none of that matters without the now, because this isn't just about learning something new, it's about doing something new.
So let's recap the 3 big truths we've covered, just to lock them in. Number 1, procrastination is a protection mechanism. It's fear. Number 2, motivation doesn't lead to action. Action creates motivation. And number 3, procrastination isn't free. It compounds regret over time.
So, I'm going to leave you with one final challenging question. Think about that one thing. You know what I'm talking about. The one you've been putting off. What is the single 2-minute action you can take to move it forward right now? I mean it, the second this is over. Because that, right there, that's where everything changes.